Everyone's aware of all this stuff. But what I want to get to is like, what was the experience once you got inside?
It
like,
was just
what did you think it was going to be like in terms of like your ability to govern?
Yeah.
Like this is your first experience governing anything. You never been a governor. You never been a mayor.
Private stuff.
Business.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you're inside the White House.
The biggest thing was just that first moment of being in this hallowed. It was really a hallowed place to me. It was
surreal.
It was beyond. To me, that was the experience. It was a surreal experience. And then, with time, that wears off. With time, it becomes, your place where you stay. And I was doing a lot of. I had two things that I really focused on: governing the country and survival. Because from the moment I won, before I got to office, all of a sudden, they came down. Nobody has ever been treated that way. And you see that. You see where in the Washington Post very early on they said, well, now the impeachment stuff starts. And it did. It literally started from the beginning. So I had survival and run the nation. I had a combination. Most people don't have the survival. They get in.
What did you expect, though, in terms of, like, once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people? Yeah. Like, how many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have actually 10,000 appointments. Now, they're different. You have big ones, and then they appoint 100 people and 200 people. But the president really is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments. So you'll appoint a secretary of state, and he or she will appoint a lot of people. So it's a lot. But in terms of major ones, you probably have like 100, but they're big ones. Treasury, state, military.
And how did you know who to appoint?
Well, I didn't. I had no experience. You have to understand. Joe.
So
I was there 17 times in Washington, and I never stayed over. According to the press, which I think is probably right, over the years, I was only there 17 times. I never stayed over. So now I'm sitting there, I'm saying, this place is gorgeous, but, I don't know anybody. It's like you go to certain areas, and other areas, they may be great. Washington was great. Washington's not so great right now. We got to fix it. We got to make it better. A very dangerous place, very badly maintained place. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it better. We're going to bring it back. But I wasn't a Washington guy. I was a New York guy. I was a New York builder, and I built buildings in New York, and I knew that whole world, but I didn't know the Washington world too well. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to be appointing top people. So,
what did you think it was going to be like? Versus, like, did you have any ideas of what it was going to be like, and what was different?
Well, I was always involved in politics, but usually from the standpoint of a donor. I was a donor. I was a big donor. I gave money to politicians. I enjoyed politics.
Mostly Democrats, right?
Both, really, pretty much both. I have actually pictures of Ronald Reagan and me when I was very young.
You were a Democrat until, like, what year?
I was a Democrat. I could get you the exact, but the early 90s, I switched over eventually. Actually, they had a reform party. I was thinking about doing that for a little while, but then fortunately I didn't because it's very hard. It's a two-party system. And anytime you hear third party, I know you like RFK Jr., and so do I. He's a fantastic guy.
I do, but I thought that being an independent was nonsense.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because even if you do great, you're not going to get Congress. In other words, you need now to say, okay, now I'll get half of Congress that's never going to vote for you. So even if you got there, which is very hard, and I know how you feel about Bobby, and I feel the same way, and he's now with us. But it doesn't. It's pure and simple. It's a two-party system.
Right.
And somebody, I won't mention his name, but somebody spent $250 million trying to get the nomination as a Reform Party candidate or whatever, and they got just nowhere. You get eaten. You just get eaten. The system eats you alive.
Right.
So, so it was really somebody that not only was new to Washington but was new to politics. So, in the office of the presidency, over the years, all those presidents, you've had 92% were politicians and 8% were generals. General Eisenhower, General Washington, right? General George Washington. You had generals. So it's 8% no admirals, 8% generals, and 92% politicians. They're politicians and they go on. So they never had a business guy, or they never had a guy that wasn't elected to an office. They were all like Ronald Reagan he was a movie actor, but he became the governor of California for, I think, 2 terms, and then he ran. So you'd never had a thing like this. But in terms of me, and sometimes I'd use it as an excuse, and I don't like having excuses actually, but I'd use it as an excuse. I had to rely on people that I respected or liked, but that I didn't know that well because I didn't know them that well. Some of those people I campaigned against because, when you have 18 people, we had mostly politicians running in the election, running in the primaries. And they got knocked out one by one, but I got to like some of them. Some of them I didn't like at all. I don't like them now. And I'd rely on them, and I'd rely on other people. So all of a sudden, people would come in, I'd like to recommend so-and-so to be Secretary of State, and I'd have 3, 4 people recommend. One thing I can tell you, everybody wants the position.
Of course.
No, but sometimes I'll hear, a lot of people don't want to work with Trump because Trump is tough to work with, et cetera. Let me tell you, everybody wants to be any one of these positions. They die for it.
Of course.
Now, they don't want to be known. I mean, there's a particular guy in New York, primarily, very big, very successful, very strong, very political, although he's not a politician. He'd give anything to be Secretary of State, but if they ask him, no, I don't think I would do it. But in the meantime, begging for it, okay, begging. I
believe you.
Everybody wants it.